Hello, and welcome to the final session of MBCEA's 51st Annual Conference Gone Virtual. What a month this has been. Over 300 downloads of the Whova conference app. Very exciting. If you're attending for the first time, I'm Sasha Demian, Executive Director of the MBCEA. Thank you for joining us. We have two promo videos that we have been playing at the beginning of each session. I hope you've seen them. If not, they're on our YouTube channel. Please go ahead, look for them, search for us, watch the videos, subscribe to our channel, use them in speaking with potential members. If you're not a member, I hope they encourage you to check us out a little more and join. Before we begin today's session, I want to make sure that you know whether you are watching on the cell phone app or on the desktop app, there is a Q&A section. So please feel free to type in any question that you have at any time. We will make sure that we get to the questions at the end of the presentation. Today's live webinar is AC478 Accreditation, Benefits to the Industry. We'll hear from Dr. Lee Shoemaker, Director of Research and Engineering for the MBMA since 1994. Dan Halmy, President of Halmy Builders and Chair of the MBCEA Accreditation Committee. Art Hance, President of Hance Construction and the MBCEA. Joe Allen, Project Manager, Safety and Training Manager for Thomas Phoenix International. And Jackie Maluda, AC478 Program Manager. I will turn this over to them.
All right, well, thank you, Sasha and Jackie, for organizing this. And thank you for inviting me to represent MBMA and provide some insight into our experience with accreditation and how our two organizations are working together to continue to elevate the metal building industry. I thought it would be appropriate to start this discussion off with a general overview of accreditation, because there are many organizations, professions, individuals who are eligible for some sort of accreditation or certification. A few examples, in the healthcare, you have hospital accreditations, you have medical lab accreditations. In education, you have accredited schools and educational organizations. Building departments and fire departments are eligible for accreditation. Test labs can be accredited. The list goes on and on. And they all have similar goals as shown in the slide on the screen there now. They want to demonstrate commitment to quality and safety. They want to create distinction among their competition. They want to drive continuous improvement. And they want to satisfy regulatory requirements. And I'll talk a little bit more about the regulatory requirements in AC472 in just a couple minutes. But it all boils down to the dictionary definition of accredited that's shown on the screen there. It's a person, organization, or course of study officially recognized. And it's that officially recognized that's really the key, because this is typically by an independent entity that evaluates the person or organization or company to the accreditation criteria and deem them to meet or exceed these standards. So on the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about MBMA's experience with accreditation. Our motivation was to drive the metal building industry to use better design and manufacturing processes and to verify that each manufacturer has met the industry's most rigorous criteria. As far as the timeline of our implementing accreditation, back in the 80s, MBMA worked with AISC to develop a certification program. It was part of the AISC's certification program for steel fabricators, and ours was designated AISC MB for metal building. And then in 1990, the very first manufacturer was certified under this program. And in 1996, the MBMA revised bylaws to require certification for membership. And this was to be accomplished by December of 1999. They gave a few years for companies for manufacturers to get certified. And then I think they even gave an additional year beyond this to try to get a few additional members certified. And back in 1996, when this was required for membership, there were 35 manufacturing members of MBMA. And of those 35, 5 did not achieve certification. So unfortunately, they were no longer eligible to be members of MBMA. But I am happy to report that of those five members, 4 went on to complete the accreditation program and 3 rejoined MBMA. So we feel like that was pretty successful. And then in 2008, 2009 timeframe, we transitioned from that AISC MB program to our current International Accreditation Services AC472 program. And the reason we transitioned to this was that both MBMA and AISC recognized that AISC members were steel fabricators, and that was really the focus of their certification program, where the MBMA certification, the MB certification, also looked at design of metal buildings. It looked at cold form steel fabrication. So AISC didn't feel comfortable with two of those three areas, and so they felt that it wasn't the best fit. So MBMA looked for a new home, and we settled on the IAS, and we've been very pleased with that since making that transition to the AC472 program. So today there are 56 AC472 accredited manufacturers. 44 of them are MBMA members. One thing I wanted to point out is that if you were to go on the IAS website, you'd see many more than 56 listings, and that's because the accreditation is by facility. So if a manufacturer has more than one plant, they might have an engineering department that's not located where the plant is. They might have an office that's just for design. And so each of those individual facilities is accredited, so that 56 represents many more facilities that have been accredited. Now, just a few comments on AC478. MBMA really feels that the AC478 really completes and enhances this whole accreditation process from manufacturer to erector. We know that metal building erection requires very knowledgeable, trained personnel to achieve quality in the final product, as well as safety and maintaining stability during construction. And so if we look at just a general overview of those, and graphically, the AC472 covers design and fabrication, and then AC478 covers erection. And so that's really a winning combination that works together from design to fabrication to delivery to the job site to the erection or assembly of the metal building. We feel that the accreditation program, both of these programs really tie that all together and lead to a very a good final product. Also on the screen there, you can see there's AC473, which I haven't mentioned yet, and that's a program that complements the AC472. That's for manufacturers of cold form steel components. And if a metal building manufacturer wants to buy out or outsource some cold form steel components, maybe insulated metal panels or purlins or panels, if they get those from an AC473 accredited manufacturer, then that complies with the requirements of making sure that their products that they're using in their metal building have gone through the same quality control process that AC472 requires. Now, one final thing I mentioned, I was going to say something about the regulatory aspect of this. In the building code, they require special inspections, mostly of welding and high-strength bolting. And some of that might take place in the shop where the fabrication is taking place. Some might take place in the field where field welding might be taking place, not so much with metal buildings, but definitely high-strength bolting would be taking place in the field. And so the building code says if you're an approved fabricator, you're exempt from a lot of the special inspections that would be required of the fabricator. And what we find most building officials doing they're the ones that decide whether a manufacturer is classified as approved, is they look at the AC472 program as their yardstick. If a manufacturer has gone through the rigorous AC472 process, they know that they have the quality control procedures in place. They have the audits that are being done by independent parties. And so they will typically deem them to be approved fabricators, and then they are exempt from those special inspections, which can be very helpful. Now, that doesn't mean they're doing anything less. That just means that they are really doing what the special inspection program is intended to do as part of their regular ongoing quality control program. And I mention that because the AC478 could have the same impact. They've been looking at introducing an approved erector classification into the building codes. Proposals have been made in the past. I don't believe they've been accepted yet, but they get a little bit more support each of the last two times it was attempted. And so that could be the same effect on erectors. If you're approved, if you're AC478 accredited, that could be the easy path to being recognized as an approved erector. and you might not have the same special inspections that would be imposed in the field because you're doing that as part of your, part of your AC478 program. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dan, who's going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of AC478.
Hi, I'm Dan. Dan Halmy Builders, general contractor, builder, erector up in Washington State. We've been accredited for several years now, and we believe in the program. And Art has asked me to take the chair of the accreditation committee, and a lot of it, I believe, is because of what we believe this program can do here. Both myself and the company that I run. So a lot of it comes back to this is the ongoing everyday experiences we have and what we deal with, and of course as a general contractor as well as a builder, we're constantly dealing with communication with architects and owners, and there is a big need out there for assurance to the owners and architects about what erectors understand and know and can do, both in experience, but also with their programs, that these buildings will go up as intended. And so some of these things that we're seeing, they're constantly like questioned, whether it be from a GC that we might be working with, or an architect or an owner that has seen various levels of frustrations and concerns with the buildings that they've have put up in the past, or with special concerns they have with the buildings going forward, that how can they ensure that they will get it done properly. So spend a little bit of time here to talk about some of my, even some recent experiences. Wasn't but a couple of months ago, we took over a project and completed it for a customer that had originally hired another contractor that did their own erection, that totally failed on the project. And the roof was not installed right. We had to come in and replace the roof, completely buy new material. Luckily for the owner, bonding company was involved in this and paid for this to be completed. But in discussion with the owner, they were frustrated because they didn't know how they could do a better job in writing their specification. And so we discussed the AC478, and this would have ensured the project would have been done right from the beginning. They would have had erection that would have met their expectations. And in the end, they were satisfied. They had a great building after it was corrected. But it did take some work, and something they wouldn't have liked to experience again. And in the future, they would specify AC478. We'll get into how that specification can look here in a minute, but those are some of the, again, that's an experience from an owner standpoint. Deal with the architects a lot and various different phases of their design. Some of their design criteria may be with hybrid type buildings or insulated panels or something they're not really comfortable with, haven't had a lot of experience with, and they want to know what can they do differently to specify this. Obviously, everybody's got the specifications where they can go back in and just say, 3 years of experience. Sometimes that works well. Many times it just doesn't cut. The experience could have been poor experience. Similar to what I was saying about the contractor that failed. there's nothing saying that he can't say he's experienced. Well, he was experienced, but he didn't do it right. He didn't do any of the criteria that we know as contractors we should be doing. And that's only one part of it. Obviously, the part from a contractor erector standpoint, we want to know that when we give a price, we're not just based on low price alone, that we actually have some bearing of these buildings are going to be installed correctly, and our competition is also held to that same standard. So we come back to this, is that ultimate goals for the program is to ensure that we have the buildings are installed correctly, they don't leak. There's so many things that we can discuss in this, but does it work for the average contractor? Definitely. This, like we have here on this accreditation slide, the bar is not set so high that only large elite firms can do this. I'm a small business. We only have a couple of erection crews. We do a lot of other things. This isn't our only focus in our business, but yet this program has worked. It's worked for us, and I'm sure it can work for any erector out there. We do also feel that for this program to work, it needs more erectors. It needs more help. It needs more focus from the industry as a whole, and it improves the industry as a whole. So when we're looking at how we can do a better job going forward, we need growth. And like it's shown here, the bar is not set so high that we can't get people involved. And so we need partners, we need believers, we need architects and owners to specify. We need the manufacturers to be behind the program. We need the component people, the insulator suppliers, all those people. They can help. They know who the best erectors are, and they can support those erectors to get this program moving, growth, and we do believe that this will be the fix for the architects and owners to get this into specification. So with that, I'll turn it over to Art.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start by just saying a thank you to Sasha and Jackie. Sasha has done a heck of a job over the last few months to take our national conference, which was going to be in Denver, and convert it to this online webinar platform. It's been a wonderful process to go through and see all the work that went into it and the benefit that it gave to our members. Jackie's been wonderful at helping me to communicate. It's been a tumultuous time, and we felt that we needed to be there to support the membership, and Jackie's been a big help in doing that. I want to thank Dan for taking over the committee to head up accreditation. So Jackie asked me when we were putting this together to give just some thoughts on why we became accredited. Besides the fact that Gary Smith badgered me constantly until I did it, I looked at accreditation as proof of what we do. When I started out with MBCEA, I got a black binder. It was for some type of certification, metal building contractor certification. We were a small company. If we had a month's cash flow in the bank, we thought we were doing well. And we didn't meet the financial requirements or the bonding requirements. And I was very disappointed. What we could do, and I did for a number of years working for another metal building contractor, and then for the first 12 years that we were in business, I always tried to get that Building of the Year award because I figured that would prove that we were doing a good job. In 2012 and 2014, we won the MBCEA Metal Building of the Year award and many other awards. Excuse me, we were very proud of them. It really was a testament to what we did. But you know, awards get old, and what we did 12 years ago doesn't reflect what we do today. Accreditation does. Accreditation is a living process. that is with you every day. It's reviewed yearly by IAS, who come in and audit your processes and procedures. And you have that stamp of approval from IAS that says this company continues to do things right. And again, we wanted to be not just another metal building contractor. We wanted to be able to say that we've raised the bar and we do things a little bit differently. And accreditation gave us the ability to do that. I think the other thing that motivated me for accreditation was, I woke up one day and I'm getting old. And, my time that I used to spend daily in the field has been taken up more and more with other things to run and grow a business. I'm not out there driving everybody crazy, getting the level of quality that I want to see in the buildings and pushing safety every day. And I knew that I needed something to make sure that that was happening. I'm not a big policies and procedures guy that can write a bunch of things down. And AC478 gave me that tool to put that policy and procedure in our company. We work very hard to build our companies. Mine started out in a spare bedroom with $1,200, and I don't want to see it, as I take less and less of an active part in the business. I don't want to see it lose its focus on the quality and the safety that we put into our buildings. AC478 gives us a roadmap to hand off to the next generation that'll run our business, and to make sure that we continue to do things the way we always have. It's just a great way, I feel, to make sure that we're doing things properly today and tomorrow. The accreditation process early on was difficult, and there should be a thank you to the early adopters. We were the 8th company to become accredited. We were a little different in that we're primarily a general contractor concentrating on metal buildings. And we've added features to our program that are specific to the things that we do. When construction is a very tumultuous business, we deal with weather, we deal with subcontractors that may be stretched between different jobs, building subcode officials, OSHA, now pandemics and social unrest. When all of those things hit us, the things that we do every day are supposed to do, little by little they slip. And you take a shortcut now because of a challenge that you have. When the pandemic's over, maybe you don't reinstitute that. And when the next challenge comes, you let something else go until the point where a year, 2, 3 down the road, you're a very different company. You don't have the safety and the quality in place. With AC478, every year we go through an audit. And that audit, to some people, is scary. It was to us the first time. And these people at IAS, they're pretty good at finding out things. They quote us on something last year, the certification of concrete for erection. And one of our people signed off on it. And he's probably more qualified than a lot of engineers to sign off on it, but that's not our policy. Our insurance doesn't cover us for that. And what it did was, it was a learning experience for us, where we took that and we now put it into our training program, and we have a policy and a procedure that we go through to make sure that never happens again. And that's made us a better company. And we know now that we have to talk with the engineers before the project even starts about this process. And these are the things that are going to make us better as time goes on. It's going to make sure that when we do repeat projects, we have a client right now that we're on our 12th and 13th project for. And they know we're going to come out and we're going to do things a certain way. Right from when we quote the building and we take it through the order and we go through engineering and we deliver that building and erect it, they know what to expect with every building that we build for them, because we have a consistent way. And that consistent way How many times have we been there the night before scrambling around because we don't have certification to begin erection, or we don't have operator certifications, or whatever it might be required? A lot of those things have been eliminated because now we have those in a process, and that process is followed. It's all taken care of. Another benefit that Dan touched on, and I think Lee did too, is the way that the manufacturers look at accreditation. We have a quote from Greg Paisley, who is the president of Butler. Greg said that, and I quote, "AC478 accreditation is a benefit to our industry as a whole. It demonstrates a builder's commitment to a set of standards that ensures owners and general contractors are getting the very best that our industry has to offer. Put simply, AC478 tells me that a builder does things right. In a world where the owner may be building their first or only building in their lifetime, this means a lot to them and to our industry. I believe as more and more builders become AC478 accredited, that our entire industry benefits by ensuring safety and quality of construction to buyers of our products." So there you have it from the president of a leading metal building manufacturer. This is going to benefit our industry. What's the old saying? A rising tide raises all boats. And as metal buildings are put up with more quality in a safer manner, it's going to lead to more market share that's going to benefit all of us. So by all means, I implore you, go for accreditation. The process has been, and I don't want to say that the process has been made easier. It was a bit confusing early on, but Jackie, working with IAS, who was very cooperative, has really made some of the administrative side of it simpler and less confusing. And that's made it much more palatable to put accreditation into your company. So we'll look forward to working with you. MBCEA has programs to help you do that. Just let us know and we're there to help. Thank you. I forgot one thing. Mr. Joe Allen is now going to come on from Thomas Phoenix.
How's it going? I'm Joe Allen from Thomas Phoenix International. I am the safety and training manager, project manager, and I am usually responsible for dealing with the IAS accreditation here. They felt like it might be a good idea to hear from somebody in person exactly what it's like to get assessed and what's involved. It is kind of a scary thing to think about when you don't quite know what to expect, but it's basically broken into two formats. In the beginning, for the initial thing, you get a desk assessment and a field assessment, and then those are renewed every couple of years on a rolling basis. It is really pretty straightforward. With the desk assessment, they're going to go over your management system, which doesn't typically change very much every year. They just make sure that if you have changed anything significant in it, that it still meets all the minimum requirements. There will be a review of the records, and that depends on what you've written in your management system. For us, a lot of that is the training records, making sure that we are up to date on the training or as close as possible. I would love to point out the fact that just because one thing is missing doesn't mean that you fail or that it goes out publicly. You know, every year there's a guy or two that slips through the cracks that needs one or two little bits of training that we haven't got to yet. You don't need to worry about fudging it or not writing it down. It's an excuse to get him trained. So that is not cause for failure. It's not that scary of a thing if it's something small like that. Then they will review your internal audit and your management review. And for me, it's kind of the meat and potatoes of what makes this effective. Beyond all the things that everyone else has talked about, I think Dan mentioned it a little bit, it is kind of a personal improvement thing here. This is where you face the facts of where you fell short for the year, what you can do better next year. We have job folders that have a bunch of information and forms that we expect the foreman to fill out. And in the beginning, you know, you have this intuitive up in your head idea of how that's going. Well, we quantified it. We wrote it into our management system where every year we're going to actually grade these job folders and see how the foremen are doing filling them out. And it was really surprisingly not where we thought it was. You know, they might have been doing 60 to 70% of it the very first year. And that wasn't cause for us to fail, but it's a room for us to improve. So it's something that we take to heart, and it's a reason to put it down in writing. And the next part that they're going to look at, which is your summary and plan of action. So every year, when you do your internal audits and you do your management system review, they want you to write down a summary and a plan of action. And this is just a very basic goal setting for the next year. What are we going to do about the things that fell a little bit short the previous year? And I wouldn't expect that anybody got perfect score on any of this, but this is what makes it good, because this is showing us exactly what we need to do to improve, and it fosters that discussion among the management of what can we change to make ourselves better. So I think that is a really good, to me, this is the heart and soul of what the desk assessment and all that paperwork is for. Next, we're going to do the field assessment. Basically, when they do the field assessment, that's going to go hand in hand with the desk assessment the first year, but you're going to get to pick a job site. And they can be, there's a wide range of how far complete that job site can be, but you know they're coming. It's not like a surprise inspection. It's not like somebody called OSHA on you. This is your chance to shine and show that if you can't get it right here, then maybe you don't deserve the accreditation there. But this is where you put your best foot forward and show what you got. So everything that's written in your management system, they're going to go out in the field and verify that you're actually doing that. So they'll ask for you to email over some blueprints, some training records for the guys on the site, that type of thing beforehand, and it'll be scheduled at a specific date and time. Inspector comes out and takes a look around, observes what you're doing. You know, if you're writing down that you're using 100% tie off and guys are up there doing the hokey pokey on the steel with no tie off, you're going to get a corrective action report for that. Part of it is that they're going to talk to the guys. So here I was a little embarrassed. It says in the standard that the guys are supposed to be aware of the accreditation process, you know, for obvious reasons. Nobody in your crew knows that what AC478 is. You're probably not doing it right. And one of our guys got a whole bunch of stage fright. And when the inspector said, tell me about the AC478, he went, awkward moment of silence, right? But none of that is a reason to fail. You just want to be able to show that the guys are trained in what they're doing, that they're following the procedures. That if you've modified the building, you have it written down from the manufacturer that that's okay. Any structural modifications that don't follow those prints. And they're really going to look around and see what you're doing there. But again, you're not going to pass 100%. It is not going out public. It is not anything to worry about. Every year we get a couple minor corrective action things. It could be something from paperwork that I forgot to sign or something else I forgot to include when I emailed it to them. But they're going to send you a little report a couple weeks after the site visit and show the things that need to be changed. If there's nothing, you just get your certificate. If there's small things to do, then you're going to do that paperwork and finish it up. So it's really just someone else reviewing that you're doing what you say you're doing, and making sure that it all still meets the requirements. You can't write in there, I'm not doing any of this crap, and give me my certificate. But it's as simple as that. They're going over what you've written in your management system, making sure your paperwork's done. And it really only involves a couple of emails and then an afternoon out on the job site showing your stuff. That is pretty much the in and out of what happens at the assessments. Most of it's written down on the IAS website where you can see it, but this is the fancy certificate you get in the mail, which allows you to advertise that you are at least paying attention to what's going on your job sites and not making it up as you go along. That is pretty much what I have for the summary of how the inspections go. I believe Jackie Maluta is next.
So thank you, everybody. Let me just get forward one slide. It was interesting to hear Art and Dan and Lee and Joe talk about what the program's all about. And I want to point out a couple of common themes that I heard, and I hope that you did as well. Art mentioned the early adopters. They really paved the way. Not only did they share their documents So if you're an MBCEA member, you have access to any document that Joe Allen created, that Mike Reynolds created, that they're all out there for you. So there's a lot of benefits that comes from through the MBCEA to help you get through this process. Dan mentioned that there's a big gap that the architects and the specifiers need. They want to know what's going on. How do they specify a job so that they don't get that run-of-the-mill erector that's going to deliver a leaky building? We want a building that's put up properly, and we want to know how to choose the contractor that's going to do that for us. And AC478 gives us that assurance. And then Lee mentioned the code officials and the progress that the MBMA has made with AC472. Those are real possibilities for AC478 accredited erectors as well. The IAS and the code officials work very closely together. The code officials have their own accreditation process through IAS, and they rely on the rigor of the IAS process. So just to recap for everybody about what's really needed, it's simple. You need a commitment to safety, training, and education. You've got to have some standard procedures and a documented management system. And in your standard procedures, there's a couple of things that the MBCEA fought to include in the program that we feel are important. We feel every project deserves a site-specific project plan. Now, that doesn't mean that every plan will look the same. Everyone will be as big or as small. A small job will have a smaller plan, but every project deserves a site-specific project plan. We believe in checklists. Things that are measured are things that get done. And they're a handy tool to make sure that things get done. We believe in job safety analysis. So we had that JSAs we had created into the program that we want you to do them. But we don't want you to have to do them from scratch. We've shared in the MBCEA website JSAs for most tasks from some of the leading erectors. And then, of course, you need to have standards and documentation regarding the qualifications of your personnel. And then, as Joe spoke about, an annual review of your plans. What you say you're doing, does it still work? Do you need to modify it? Are you doing it properly? The management system, every time I train or talk on this subject, I think is the scariest piece of the whole process. And it's just a document. Like, don't let the word or the concept wig you out. I can assure you that every assembler that I've ever spent time with that said that they were interested in doing this program, they were already meeting the standards, in my opinion. Of course, I'm not an IAS inspector. They just hadn't documented it. Well, the management system is nothing more than a formal document. And you know what? We have a template that we're going to give to you. And then I'll help you modify it for your business. You might throw out the MBCEA one, or you might say, you know what? I like page 2 and page 3, but let's work on page 4. It's as simple as that. At the end of the day, the management system is just a document that says what you do so that the IAS can prove that you do what you say. Joe and Art alluded to the fact that the program has had a few growing pains. And you know, it was brand new. It needed to evolve. We needed to do it. We needed to get a few companies accredited. And then we worked with the MBCEA to really clean up the language. I don't think that we changed the heart or the intent of the program. I truly believe all we did with this latest round of changes was clean up the language. So as Joe mentioned, there's, he referred to a desk assessment. I call that the electronic review. It's the same thing. So that electronic review of documents, you're going to go back and forth via email or maybe with a, you know, a Dropbox link where you'll put your documents. And the IAS is going to verify that you are meeting the basic core requirements. They're going to ask to see a few things, and then they're going to come to your job site. And that job site, as Joe mentioned, is chosen based on your decision, and it's at a mutually convenient time. So no one's just showing up like an OSHA inspector and saying, surprise, we're here today to do your IAS audit. It's going to be scheduled in advance and at a mutually convenient time. When the assessor is there on the screen, I've listed some of the things that he's going to look for. He wants to see your site-specific plan. Now, he's not going to audit the integrity of that plan or the efficacy of that plan. We trust that you know how to do that part. He wants to make sure that you have developed a plan and that you're working your implementation accordingly. That you don't have someone in your office that's writing this beautiful plan and then a bunch of cowboys on the job site that are doing whatever the heck they choose. We want to make sure that everyone, as Art was talking to, is working on that same page. When they're there, they're going to ensure that JSAs were developed. They're going to verify that you have appropriate erection drawings. They're going to validate at least 50% of the job site personnel are in compliance with your training program. Not with my training program or Art's training program, with the training program that you defined in your management system. So if you say that all of your guys that have been with you for 1 year have forklift certification and OSHA 10 and whatever else, that's what they're going to validate. They're also going to verify that those guys are aware of and understand the program. They are further going to validate that at least 25% of the men on your job site meet the definition of a journey worker. And the word journey worker throws some people. It comes out of the apprenticeship world or the union world, and it has nothing to do with that. It's just the standard definition for an experienced worker. So in the criteria, we've defined what a journey worker is, and they have OSHA 10. They have a few years of experience. Now, if you have an approved apprenticeship program, that's easy to verify. If you don't have an approved apprenticeship program, you're going to have to produce some documentation that ties that in for the inspector so that they can say, yes, you're right, this guy does meet the definition of a journey worker. They might ask to see your checklists. Now this is another interesting thing. Nowhere do we say what checklist you have to use. We just want you to use checklists because there's truth to the adage, what gets measured gets done. And then they're going to verify compliance with OSHA. Next year, and for the next 3 years, they're going to do a similar job site assessment. Starting in the 4th year, the electronic review continues, but every other year, they now come to your job site. So we really feel that those first 4 years, you're bedding down the process. As Joe said, you're developing goals and continuous improvement. You're focusing on how to continually make the business better. After that, they're going to check on you every other year to make sure that you haven't gone off and done anything crazy, but they're still going to do the electronic review. I can't emphasize enough how much information is available to you in the members only section. Sasha's done a great job of organizing it. Your fellow members have done a tremendous and generous job of sharing their documents, their checklists, their templates. Everything's in an original, like a Word or an Excel, so you can quickly take off the Thomas Phoenix logo and put in your own logo, or change some words to make it more specific to you. As I mentioned, we have a copy of that draft management system, and then you have access to me. Most companies, we just do a Zoom, we go through. You might have as many members of your staff on that Zoom as you want, so everyone can ask questions, understand the program. And then after that, I'm there to help you, but you also have access to people like Joe Allen and Dan Helmy and Art Hance. These are your mentors that have already gone through the program and are more than happy to answer your questions and take you through the process. So that's about all we have on accreditation, but we are very willing to answer questions. Sasha's going to moderate some of the questions. If the other panelists want to unmute themselves and maybe come back online, we'd love to see your smiling faces and hear some questions.
So we do have one question that has come in. The question is, does any of this translate to Canadian projects?
I'm happy to take that, and then Art and Dan, if you want to add. The IAS, the first word in their name is international. So it's a globally recognized standard. So it's not US specific at all.
Yeah, I can jump in on that a little bit here. Just like what Jackie said, nothing specific to, it's about you, your management system, what you put together to make your systems work, and the accreditation is how you advertise it, how you use it. Now, as far as what Lee was talking about, this fitting into future codes, that would be probably something that may or may not be affecting you in codes in Canada, but that hasn't really taken place here in the US yet anyway, so that's a future thing.
And
One thing I could mention on Canada is that Canada has their own certification program for metal building manufacturers, and I can't think of the number right now, A something, but they actually got in the Canadian building code that metal building manufacturers have to be certified under that program. It's right in the building code, and we were kind of like, how did you do that? Because you know, that wouldn't, we don't see that ever happening in the U.S. building code, saying that a manufacturer shall be accredited. You know, in specifications, yes, it can be specified, but not in the building code. So we were just looking at it as far as just the special inspections, but not being a code requirement.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, can you review the cost for the first 4 years and each year thereafter?
So when we first developed the program, we developed 3 tiers of pricing with the IAS. And pricing is completely controlled by the IAS. I'll let each of the 3 gentlemen speak to what it costs within their company. But I do know the original pricing was based on if you were a small, medium, or large erector. And we defined that as fewer than 16 field crew members. So maybe a 2 or 3 crew shop was considered small. Fewer than 32 field employees was a medium, and more than 32 field employees was a large. And so the bands were about $1,000 jump to each. But
Art?
I know that the process that we've gone through has made it much more affordable. My bookkeeper has a better idea of what those costs are, but I know I don't lose sleep over it anymore.
I can say
I got to say that the cost versus the benefit is far outweighed. I mean, for the couple of $1,000s, whatever it is a year that we pay, you know, it's saved us a tremendous amount of time of running around because of things that we forgot to do that are now just part of the process, and people know they have to do it. I work a lot with Thomas Phoenix and Joe, and you know, they would always be after us. We need that release to erect steel. We need the engineer's sign off, engineer a record. And you know, here we'd be the night before the steel was arriving and everybody would be going crazy to get an engineer to sign off on that. And, you know, that distracts you from other things. We don't deal with that anymore. That's all in the past.
I agree with that. The couple $1,000s a year, this is the cost of this is easily outweighed by the program.
I just want to add one thing, because I don't want it to sound like we're trying to be vague about the cost. No money comes to the MBCEA. The MBCEA has never made a dime from this program, nor will we ever. This is an investment in the reputation of the industry. So your price, your quote, you get when you first reach out to the IAS. And I believe that it's about in the range of, you know, $4,000 or $5,000, but that's purely speculative and a range. It depends on the IAS has criteria. You know, they do charge a flat rate, so they're California based. Dan's in Washington, Art's in New Jersey. They're not charging travel and a different expense because of where they're located. The rate is the rate is the rate. So,
Yeah, I don't know if you guys mentioned that the standard has been different than the very first people that went through, because initially we had third-party assessors and you had to pay your third-party company as well as the IAS to come out there. So one of the things that we agreed to change, or that the IAS has changed, is that's no longer required. And whatever people paid in the very beginning, I don't do the paperwork for paying it here. I just make sure we're compliant. But it is less than it was in the beginning, and it is now more affordable than the first people that went through the first couple of years.
Thank you. There was one more question. It's along the same lines, and I think Jackie probably already touched on the answer, but it was, what does it cost for a small erector? So if you could direct people as to how they find out the cost just one more time.
yeah, so unfortunately, I don't know the exact answer. I know in the beginning, it was $3,200, $4,500, and $5,500 for the 3 tiers. But that was in 2017 when we started. The program's evolved since then, but I still think it's in that range. As Joe mentioned, there used to be the requirement for a third-party assessor, and that added another $1,000 to $2,000 on top of the IAS fees. And then, of course, there's a cost internally to prepare and to commit to this program. I've heard many companies say year one, they calculated their investment at less than $10,000, but then after that, their maintenance of the program is well less than $5,000. So those are ballparks for planning purposes.
I'd like to make a point. Every year, the MBCEA Board of Directors puts money in the budget to support members, basically Jackie's time and the resources that we generate to help you get accreditation. And, you know, if anything, this program costs us money because we're investing in the future of the industry. The program initially was, there were a lot of moving parts. It was very confusing. And with any program of this magnitude, it's going to take a while for the early adopters, as I mentioned before, to run into the roadblocks, to figure out where the bottlenecks are, and to come up with improvements to the system. I have to give IAS a lot of credit for sitting down with us, you know, recognizing that there were some issues that were roadblocks for people getting accreditation, and they worked with us to remove those roadblocks and get back to the core of what this program was originally designed to do. And I really am thrilled with how it's turned out. It's become much easier to manage. And I think that, you know, again, for the early adopters, we were in uncharted territory and we were creating a lot of these things. Now, the internal cost to put this program into place is infinitely less than it was before because those documents are out there. You know, again, Thomas Phoenix produced a lot of documents. We have an entire document that we built the spreadsheet around tracking irregularities and reporting irregularities, and in being able to embed documents from the manufacturer saying, this is, you know, we're giving you authorization. Here's a signed and sealed letter from us telling you how to modify that rafter that we welded the splice plate on wrong. You know, so those tools are there. You can grab that toolbox, bring it into your company, make the subtle changes that make it fit to your operation, and be off and running.
Okay, that was the last question. Thank you to our presenters for sharing your personal experiences with AC478 accreditation and your support of our program. I hope it's given all of you attending some encouragement to implement this program in your business. Please rate this session right there in the app and then spend some time visiting the exhibitor profiles if you have not done so already. Their promotions will be ending today, including MBCEA's promotion when you check out the Building of the Year presentation. If you've missed any of the previous sessions, you can watch them on demand through the Whova app for a short time. If you're interested, I'll be hosting a virtual happy hour this evening so that I can see all of your faces that I've missed so much. Check out the community board for more information. Save the date for our 52nd annual conference to be held April 28th through 30th in 2021 in Nashville. I also personally want to thank our marketing committee, and specifically Robert Tiffin and David O'Neill, who have been my teammates behind the scenes, helping me pull off this virtual conference. I couldn't have done it without you. Lastly, we want to thank our conference sponsors making this free virtual conference possible. I hope to see you all tonight.
What time is that?
6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Pop in just for a few minutes to say hi.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye, thanks.
Bye-bye.